welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 208. It is the third day of the week, aka the Psycho Crusher workout. I'm on my way to the gym right now, a little later than I wanted to, but I got a little delayed in the planning for the home gym that's happening in the very future. But anyways, it's been happening in the near future for the past like 15 months, it feels like, but we're starting to get there. We're getting to the flooring of it, so it's serious now. But anyways, to the main subject matter at hand. The feeling of wanting to run away. So, this came up because I was talking to someone the other day, and they were just like, oh, hey, I just like want to like get away from all the issues. Like I just want to get away from all my problems. Like I just want to go somewhere. It doesn't even matter. And when that was said, I was like, huh, that wasn't the only place where I heard it. I heard it somewhere else too, where in the show that I'm watching right now, well, kind of watching now, called Fish Tank, which is great. I love the show. They ended up running away from the entire show area that was happening and went to Vegas and made the show something that was completely different. That's a whole other rant for another day. But it's just interesting that it is like almost an innate thing to want to have the ability and or the chance to just get the fuck away from things when things are getting tough. And I wanted to take this opportunity just to talk a little bit more in the general sense of the running away feeling, why we get it, what it means. I feel like a lot of people end up having that feeling. Some people act on that feeling, which is a very interesting thing, which we'll probably get into. But I'll start with this. I've had that experience before where I just wanted to go. I've wanted to just get the fuck out of whatever situation I was in. There are times where it hits differently, obviously, you know, like there are levels to it. A little thing that was awkward here, you know, things like that where you're just like, oh, I don't want to be here, you know, like there's that. And then there are days where you're like, I just want to fucking change my name, go to Mexico and be on the America's Most Wanted list, you know, because just sometimes it is literally you just want to get the fuck out of here. You just do anything. Move halfway across the country, change your name, Bob Iger, and just pretend you're the CEO of Disney. You know what I mean? So there are things like that. There are days where you just want to be not there. And it happens. I feel like most people have at least 1 or 2 days where they experience like that. I personally have had that experience a few times in my life. It's very few, but I remember a couple of them. And I'll say one was a time I specifically very well remembered because it was a very, very hard time in my life, which we will discuss in a different one. Very, very, very different time of my life, but I don't want to get into that because that's a whole bag of potatoes. That's like a 4-part episode right there. So yeah, that'll be something that we talk about in the future. But for now, I'll say the other times I felt it, it's interesting that the flight aspect of it. Most people always talk about fight or flight, expecting the fight to happen, usually when they discuss it. But many of the times, though, people do end up going with the flight. And a lot of times, people just end up dropping their entire life and going somewhere the fuck else. And that is an interesting thing. Now, could I probably call this episode Fight or Flight? Probably. But I just wanted to talk about the flight part of it, because that's the interesting part to me. Because a lot of people who do that, it's like, I guess, why? But then it's interesting because you hear their side and it's like, okay, I kind of get you. It's like a weird empathetic area where I can kind of understand. It is crazy to me still, but some people will do it. But like I was saying, for me personally, I've had it a few times in my life, and it really is once the going gets tough, really. That's the interesting part to me, is that when it gets tough, it really does hit the fight or flight. And there are times where I was like, fuck, I could just fly, fuck it, I'll just figure it out, you know? But that is such a, like, it requires such a particular mindset that I do not have, that I could not do it. But we'll discuss probably on the inside those who do it and the mindset that they have to go through in order to do it, because realistically, it's interesting. It's definitely there. But with that being said, I will see you on the inside.
Alright, so started this day off with Decline Isopress, which was pretty good. I
will be saying this right now, just at the beginning. I am wearing pants because I completely forgot my shorts during this entire workout, which was very annoying, but it is what it is. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. The fight or flight response, the flight part. When people get this response, the running away feeling, the get the fuck out of Dodge, usually comes when it is a high pressure situation from the outside coming in. And I understand that there are variables to it because people's responses to that can vary. I mean, we're talking about somebody calls them the wrong name could cause them to have a fight or flight response. Other people could be tortured to hell and still be like, I won't do either. You know, there are things that everybody's tolerance for what they're willing to deal with is very dependent on a lot of different factors. But it seems as though once somebody reaches that point where they have the 1 or 2 response, it's always usually the 1 or the 2 response, which is the flight and or the fight. And for this episode, we will be looking more at the flight version of it and why it happens. Personally, I just wanted to get more into the mindset of a person that would just say fuck it and go. I don't want to call these people cowardly because that is not the case in this situation, because there are times where running makes sense. It isn't necessarily something that you should do all the time, or that is a smart option, but it is an option that can be smart depending on what's going on. And I think it is truly case by case basis, but I think a lot of people have this feeling of wanting to leave, and it's very rare where people act on it. People do act on it, but it's very rare where people act on it because they're always usually leaving something where there are consequences to be had, whether it be something along the lines of leaving a family behind or leaving certain responsibilities behind, maybe family members, maybe a job or anything like that, where they just say screw it, I'm leaving, and then that's it. When most of the time that happens, they're leaving behind something that might come back to them, whether it be like a job or a family. I'm not saying that it's bad in necessarily, because there are some situations where it makes total sense for this to happen. There are situations where you would want the person to leave, to get out of there. You know, you look at somebody like who's been through domestic violence or abusive relationships between family members or something along those lines. Those are ideal situations where they would probably want to get the fuck out of Dodge, where the fight would probably end up with somebody either dead or in jail. And most of the time that can be good. Well, the somebody in jail part mostly, because you know you can get somebody else in jail, but if it's ending up in death, no one's gonna win there. It all just depends. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like the most of the time when it comes down to it, when this feeling is triggered, basically, it's either A or B. There's never rarely a C option. I always feel like the do nothing option is the unknown option. And honestly, the unknown, the do nothing option isn't the best. It actually can be a bad idea a lot of the time because there are points where you just have to act, whether it be do something about it or just fucking leave. So that is something, but it's always interesting that it boils down to 2, right? It's always boiling down to 2. To go back a little bit to talk about the idea of some of the times that people end up flying end up becoming just a time where they want to be skirting the responsibilities that are in their life, whether it be something serious or something not as serious, but in their mind it is serious. And I think that's the main key factor. It is the perspective of the person who's doing the flying. Is this issue or whatever is happening to them such a big deal that the flight makes sense, that they're willing to just say fuck it, give up, and go somewhere else, start brand new? And I think that there is such a level of desperation that I can kind of get it. I can understand it in a weird way where I understand that the person just wants a new start. And it's hard because most of the time nobody really gets a new start, but you want to be the exception to the rule. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to be that, but you want to be. And I think that isn't necessarily something to be looked down upon at all.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. None exercises skipped. Also none. Actually,
We have one, Low Rose. Just didn't have time for it. Wanted to go home and get some stuff done. So unfortunately they had to go. So besides that, got everything else in, so that was nice, and got a lot of sets in today, so that was also nice. But anyways, back to the main subject matter. So I've decided to make this a two-parter, so tomorrow will be the other part of the fight or flight response, but today to go back a little bit on the flight response, the flight part of fight or flight. It's just interesting to me to have people who choose the fight flight thing, and sometimes it is the smart move. I'm not going to say that it is always the right idea to fight it out, but sometimes it is smart to get the fuck out of Dodge. But it is interesting that those are the two base feelings that we have once the pressure is applied, and thus will always be there no matter what, no matter where we are at. We will have the instinct of get the fuck out of Dodge, or oh shit, shit's gonna go down. It's either here or I die. You know, it's one of the two. But the flight one is interesting because I feel like a lot of people nowadays feel the flight one more so often than not, this weird yearning to go out and go somewhere completely different and try to find a solution to the issues that you're having somewhere else, to just forget everything and just fucking go. And I kind of get it. You know, the world is now interconnected enough, and things are a lot easier than it once was, where moving isn't necessarily a ordeal or a hassle, or starting a whole new life somewhere else isn't as impactful as it once was. You can keep track with people all the time. There are things that will make life a lot easier to just pick up and just fucking go. Even if you don't want to keep up with the people, it is easy to just kind of abandon all of your old stuff, start anew, and start somewhere fresh. It's also very easy to do that as well. You just have to kind of figure out what you're doing, right? But it is interesting, the people who end up doing something like that, because it does speak to a certain characteristic about them that is, I wouldn't say cowardly, because there are times where it does make sense to just get out of there. But it's more so of one of those things that you don't want to make it a habit, because either way, in either direction, because if you're flying too much away, you're never really dealing with any problems. And if you're fighting too much, well, you gotta know when to run, you know what I mean? You got to know when to do these things, or else you're going to screw yourself and put yourself into a corner that you're just not going to be able to fight your way out of. So it is really just dependent, but it is interesting to look on this side of the coin, because it seems as though this is it's one of those things that everybody kind of feels. You know, sometimes you just want to get the fuck out of there. You don't even want to deal with anything. You just want to leave, pick up, and just kind of drive. And there are some people that do that in situations where they shouldn't do that, obviously. What is it? Looking at all of the fatherless children out there, that is a huge fucking deal, obviously. So that is a big issue. Maybe that'll be a discussion for a different day. Actually, it will be, now thinking about it. It is interesting to see that it is such an innate response with certain people, especially with certain responsibilities that happen over and over and over again, you know, like single motherhood and the fatherless child, you know, that entire thing. But it is something that speaks to a different world where you are just leaving something completely that you shouldn't be, you know. But that little conversation is for a whole other day. But for this now, I'll say this. Sometimes you gotta have to figure out and assess what's going on in your life and figure out if it's worth the flight mode is worth it. Because sometimes it is worth it, but it's not always worth it. Sometimes you have to stick around and fight it out. But we'll more on that on the next video. And with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one was a little bit of a interesting one. I like talking about these types of things. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. Please share your opinions and comments down below. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there. Stay warm out there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace!